Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow, with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. We're broadcasting on all our digital platforms throughout the United Kingdom and across the world, bringing you quality pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter and on TikTok. A very good evening to everybody who is coming in. Please do tell us where you're coming from. Please do say hello. Please do send in your comments and your questions as well. And tonight at the bottom of the hour at 7:30, we have got the well-known activist Niall Fraser, who is back with us, and we're going to be talking about the SNP implosion. And goodness knows there's enough to talk with Niall about, and we'll be hearing what he thinks of the present situation and what indeed the future is holding for us all. So thank you to everybody on TikTok. Now, you won't be able to see the interview on TikTok, but if you're watching on TikTok, just switch over to YouTube. Good evening to all tonight. Hello to Harry, who says, hope you're having a wonderful evening. It was Derek who was first in tonight, saying hello to fellow Unionists around the world. He says, apologies, but by the time you start your broadcast, I'll be half done my first hour of night shift. Well, Derek, all the very best to you. And Derek's going to be joining us on the street stall this Saturday, because we are beginning our programme of street stalls for this year, our spring and summer street stalls. The first one will be on Saturday, and if you'd like to join us, please do send in your message and tell us, and we'll tell you where and when and how to join us. Debbie says, good evening. It's been disappointing because there's been no arrests. There's been no arrests, but there's been a lot of red faces among the SNP. That's for absolute sure. Hello to Andrew and to Alan. And Adam says, hello from the heart of the great British state of England. Hello to Stuart from Elgin. And Adam says someone had a hissy fit over the flying of the English flag of St. George. Are you referring to somebody who was on, was it Talk TV or something? I saw some person complaining just ridiculously about that. Hello to Derek and also to Arnie Tony Stevenson. And Christopher says, good evening in a wonderful British week of SNP meltdown. Hi, Catherine and Ryan from the West Riding of Yorkshire. I was looking at something in Yorkshire today. It was Helmsley. Something about Helmsley that I was reading. And is Helmsley anywhere near where you are, Ryan? It looked like quite a nice wee village. Super Typist says she made it on time for the first time. Fantastic, Super Typist. Glad to have you in the house. And to Paul watching from Inverness. Super Typist, we will send you a message. Could you send an email or a message to our Facebook page, and we'll tell you where. Send a contact at aforceforgood.uk is our email, and we will get straight back to you on that, Super Typist. Well, when the programme's finished. Hello, Kat. Niall's back. Fantastic. Niall's back. Stuart says, why on earth is the SNP not being roared on a fire of freedom? Hello to TT. Well, let's just look at the headlines today. They were not particularly well for Nicola Sturgeon. The National had a black front page, and on it had the word traumatic. It has been traumatic. Sturgeon speaks publicly about quote-unquote nightmare of police probe for the first time as she makes return to Holyrood. And why it is in black, I don't know, but maybe there's been a funeral. Maybe it's a political funeral. Maybe it is predicting the ultimate burial of the Scottish Nationalist Party. We can but see Kings 11 on TikTok says the SNP is falling apart. The Kings 11. I think I know what football team you are referring to there, sir. Yes, and there was another one, another front. It wasn't a front page, but there it goes. This I think was in the Mail. Sturgeon. This is beyond my worst nightmare. Nicola Sturgeon yesterday broke her silence on the crisis, tearing the SNP apart, admitting it had been her worst nightmare. The former First Minister said the chaos engulfing her party had been quote-unquote traumatic, and told of her surprise at police arriving on her doorstep to arrest her husband, Peter Murrell. She insisted she has not personally been spoken to by officers and would not be stepping down as an MSP. Well, that's unfortunate. The clearly shaken Miss Sturgeon spoke to journalists in the Parliament for the first time since police turned up at her home. Okay. And what's always lets her off the hook as well is she always stands there and she goes, because this is subject to an ongoing police inquiry, there is of course nothing that I can say particularly with regard to that. You know, she always gets herself off the hook by those few words alluding to the ongoing police inquiry, and it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right to me to talk about that. So, and you're like, oh, come on, get this ongoing police inquiry ongoing, so that she does have to talk, hopefully from a little wooden box in a courtroom. Good. Super Type is going to email us. We'll get back to you tonight, ma'am. And then, of course, there was the whole who told Beattie to remember the motorhome scenario. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but well, we've got a tweet here about the treasurer, Colin Beattie, being the treasurer of the SNP. And yesterday he said, and that's the BBC Andrew Kerr saying that SNP's former treasurer Colin Beattie has told journalists that he didn't know about the SNP's motorhome. He was asked, did you know about the motorhome purchase and did you sign it off? He replied, quote, no, I didn't know about it, close quote. Mr. Beattie then walked away from the group. And there you see a picture of Mr. Beattie and a lady in the background who is his handler. And maybe it's like, if you saw the video, it's like she's like the nurse at the nursing home trying to help this old boy, like, walk down the corridor, basically. And she's like, no, come on now. We've said enough. Come on now. Come on. This way. And Glenn Campbell there from the British Broadcasting Corporation says, I do not understand how the party could acquire an expensive motorhome without the party treasurer knowing about it. You, sir, and lots of other people don't understand that either, because Colin Beattie signed off the SNP's 2021 accounts, which included motor vehicle assets worth 80k. Okay. So that point of view lasted for about an hour and a half, And I'm presuming that that lady who was his handler or his nurse or whatever told him that he had to clarify that. So he clarified it in a second statement. Statement from Colin Beattie. This afternoon I was asked if I knew about the motorhome purchase, to which I answered no. Given some of the coverage of this answer, I believe it is important to clarify that I was unaware of the transaction at the time of purchase. I became aware of the transaction via the 2021 annual accounts. Okay, so that's very strange. Like, a party buys a motor vehicle, and let's say it was the £80,000 that appeared under motor vehicles in the party's accounts. It buys it, but it doesn't say to the treasurer, look, we're going to buy a motorhome, it's going to cost 80,000, we're going to buy it with party accounts. They don't say that to the treasurer, they just go ahead and do it, and the treasurer doesn't know until he's looking down and he's going, what's this 80,000 about? And they're going, oh, well, that's actually a motorhome that we bought. And that's the first time he heard about it. That's the first time we're meant to believe that he heard about it, was after the fact, when it actually appears as a number in the accounts that he is having to sign off on. That's pretty strange. And so we're going to get to the bottom of this. You know, there's a lot of people working on getting to the bottom of it, and it's going to be funny when it all comes out. And as far as we're concerned, as Unionists, we could not have dreamt this in our wildest dreams, that the party would bring itself down in this way. But you think about it, you know, it was motoring on. It was motoring on there, as Rishi Sunak joked in the House of Commons. It was motoring on without a thought for what it should in fact be doing, and it became full of hubris, you know, which is full of pride and feeling that it didn't need to answer to anybody. And look what happened. Look what happened. It's hubris which brought it down. And as they always say, pride comes before a fall. And there's Niall, who'll be on shortly, says, I actually predicted Beattie backtracking. Inconceivable he didn't know. Thus he would have to backtrack. Good point. Good to see Stop It McClellan back in the room again. And William, a new subscriber from England but has lived in Scotland for 41 years. Keep up the good work. We certainly will, sir. And thank you for your thoughts. Catherine says, guess what? My English friends got their house broken into and the keys nicked to the car, and it ended up in Edinburgh. Well, I'm glad they found the car, Catherine. And Sturgeon might think that the past couple of weeks have been traumatic, but as Alan reminds us, the past 16 years have been traumatic for the people of Scotland under the Scottish National Party. And Niall was talking about an opinion poll that came out today, and we'll talk about that more when we speak to him, but it shows the SNP tanking, literally tanking. Ryan answers my question. Helmsley is in the North Riding, Alistair. It's still considered a part of God's own country. It's nice to know. Yeah, indeed. You could easily forget you had bought a motorhome, especially if you parked it at your granny's driveway. An easy oversight. Great, great. Well, the one good thing that all of this does enable, though, one good thing that it enables, well, before we go on, let's watched this GB News clip from Dan Wootton, who's very good. And this apparently, I think it was maybe last night on GB News or the night before, and it was questioning the transparency of the SNP and how it's not a very transparent party. Let's run this.
Development in the SNP finance probe. The Sunday Mail has revealed that Scottish police are on the hunt for SIM cards linked to burner phones as part of their bombshell investigation. Today, the SNP civil war erupted in Westminster as Leader in the House of Commons Stephen Flynn admitted that he only found out the party's auditors had quit 5 months after the event. But despite all of that, Kelly Given, a rabid SNP member, a columnist, by the way, for the pro-separatist propaganda newspaper The National, appeared on the BBC, where she gave a glowing review of party management.
The SNP are forced as well to be the most transparent because we are held to such a higher standard. You know, the Tories get away with murder, they get away with anything. And it's like they're not held accountable in public ever. And it's like they don't take any accountability. There's hardly any scrutiny on them. I mean, we've had like a forensic tent in the ex-First Minister's garden on full view for everyone. We've got people camping outside her house to video her leaving her house. Like, that is transparency. What else do you possibly want?
Wonder why the tent was there. SNP.
Yeah, a forensic tent in your garden is certainly the height of transparency. There's no question about that. Police officers rummaging through your underwear drawer, that's also the height of transparency. Unfortunately, it's not the kind of transparency, though, that you really want. But I do find Dan Wootton funny the way that he phrases things, because he goes there in his way. He goes, Kelly Given, a rabid SNP member, a columnist, by the way, for the pro-separatist propaganda newspaper, The National. Kelly Given, a rabid SNP member, a columnist, by the way, for the pro-separatist propaganda newspaper, The National. That you don't hear it the first time, and then, like, you play it again. Let's just play it again and fast forward to the bit where he says...
Development in the SNP finance probe. The Sunday Mail has revealed that Scottish police are on the hunt for SIM cards linked to burner phones as part of their bombshell investigation. Today, the SNP civil war erupted in Westminster as Leader in the House of Commons Stephen Flynn admitted that he only found out the party's auditors had quit 5 months after the event. But despite all of that, Kelly Given, a rabid SNP member, a columnist, by the way, for the pro-separatist propaganda newspaper The National, appeared on the BBC, where she gave a glowing review of party management.
The SNP are forced as well to be the most transparent because...
Oh man, he's great, Dan Wootton. He really is fantastic. Yeah, so, you know, they still think it's transparent. Well, it must be transparent. I mean, the police even come in and they go through your desk. How much more transparent do you want? Okay, Kelly. Yeah. Maybe you should look up the Maybe you should look up the dictionary definition of what transparent is meant to mean. Anyway. Just had to play that. That was excellent. That's on our TikTok, by the way, so please do follow us on TikTok. We get a lot of views every day, and we get a lot of comments on all our videos as well. We get good engagement on TikTok, so please give us a follow over on TikTok as well. And what else has been going on? We've got our man coming up, Niall is coming up at the bottom of the hour. But firstly, I just want to quickly mention an article by Lord Forst, which has appeared, let me just bring it in. Here we are. And this was the SNP's implosion is a chance to put failing devolution into reverse. David Frost is his name. He's actually Lord Frost, and he published that. It was actually on the 20th in the hard copy. And what is important here, that's really important that he says, down here is that devolution was about enabling powers to be exercised closer to the people in a more practical and accountable way. Instead, it has resulted in the creation of closed-shop fiefdoms, effective one-party states, a tin-pot amateurish one in Wales, and a seriously dangerous one in Scotland. Let's not forget that most people in Scotland oppose independence and yes, so we lost a wee bit of that, but the point is, in this article here, the SNP's implosion is a chance to put failing devolution into reverse. He points out that we have a right not to have to live with this permanent uncertainty. That's his phrase, permanent uncertainty. And he says, I know I will be told by many that being tough with the SNP is counterproductive. No, we have seen where that gets us. Stand up for Scots who want to live in a normal, settled political culture. Stand up for Scots who want to live in a normal, settled political culture. Speak for Britain and start rebuilding our nation. Well said, sir. Well said. Of course, naturally, the SNP did go into a conniption fit meltdown with that, but they don't really understand what he was meaning, because he was trying to get back to what devolution was intended to do. And devolution was not intended to enable the SNP to go around the world pretending that they are the foreign the foreign diplomats for Scotland. They're not. The British office represents Scotland, England, Northern Ireland and Wales. Devolution was not intended to use British taxpayers' money to pay the British civil service to write documents on how to break up the country. Okay, and so this is long past the time when this has to be sorted. Now, I looked at an article the other day, and I realised it was a year ago that Lord Foulkes had actually written an article and had said that he was going to put forward a private member's bill, which was going to allow the Treasury to veto any devolved administrative plans to spend public money on reserved areas, such as foreign affairs, defence and the Constitution. And that was going to be a private member's bill. And that was going to be introduced last April. However, as we said, that's never even going to get debated. And as it happened, it didn't even get chosen for debate. So that's a year has passed after Lord Foulkes wrote that bill and tried to present it to Parliament. A year has passed, and what has been done about stopping the civil service in Scotland spending money on the Constitution, on foreign affairs? Nothing has been done to stop them doing that. So a year has gone by and a year has been wasted. But Lord Foulkes has got the bill. So what we need to do is go to Lord Foulkes, say, give that to the government needs to read it, and they need to put it through legislation with the 80-seat majority before the next general election next year. Will they do that? Who knows? Now, we've got Niall coming up in 5 minutes, but before that, we have got our On This Day in British History, and because British history matters, and the prize is going to be this Coronation badge. Check that out. Coronation badge. It says King Charles III, Coronation, God Save the King, and it's a pin badge. Now, all you need to do to enter that is to send the answer to the question to contact@aforceforgood.uk. And if you've never entered it before, it's easy to do. Send your answer to contact@aforceforgood.uk, and it will be on this day in British history. Now, on this day, which is the 29th of April in 1924, the Chatham Naval Memorial was unveiled at Chatham by the man who would become the future Edward VIII, who was then Prince of Wales. And what this is, it's a memorial, and there are 3 of them, and they're all exactly the same, and they're based at the 3 naval ports of Chatham, Plymouth, and Portsmouth. And they commemorate the 8,517 sailors who perished in World War I, and the 10,098 who perished in the Second World War, who were, almost all of whom, buried at sea. And so it was decided by 1924 that they should be commemorated, and that was only, 6 years after the end of World War I, and they were designed by Sir Robert Lorimer, who was a Scotsman, of course. And Robert Lorimer also designed the Scottish Military Museum at Edinburgh Castle. And let's get a couple of pictures up there of the Chatham Memorial. Now you'll also find that exact same memorial, which is fairly intricate and certainly substantial, at Plymouth and at Portsmouth. It's got another angle there from it. There you go, on a sunnier day. And these black plaques are the plaques that include all the names of the sailors of World War I and World War II. And there's an aerial shot as well that we'll just put up. There you go. That's the Chatham Naval Memorial, opened on this day in 1924. Okay, now the if you look that up on Wikipedia, there's a different date for it opening, but we've used the date that the Commonwealth War Graves Commission says that it was opened. So that was the first of those 3. The first was at Chatham, and the other 2 identical are at Plymouth and Portsmouth. Now we've got our friend coming up in a couple of minutes. Stuart says devolution has ruined Scotland. William says we need to keep useless in power, as he is the best advert for keeping the Union. Dunfermline City resident forever. And Paul comes in, there's enough chaos in the world. The United Kingdom is precious because it is still stable despite the efforts of the advocates of chaos and division. And let's hope that it is stable for as long as possible. Now folks, there are competition for this, and please, if you've not entered before, send your email into contact@aforceforgood.uk. You'll get this commemoration badge for the coronation, and we'll also throw in a copy of our latest Union Heart, which is Union of the Crowns. This, the 420th anniversary year of the Union of the Crowns, when the Scots King became also the King of England and declared himself King of Great Britain. So our question on this day, 29th of April in 1924, the Chatham War Memorial was opened. Can you name one of the other 2 places that the same identical memorial stands? Okay, there's 3 of them. One of them's at Chatham. Name one of the other places, and you too could be in with a chance of winning our badge. Great stuff. Now folks, Niall is in the room and we're just going to bring him in, so please do say a big hello to our friend and colleague and fellow Unionist, Niall Fraser.
Hello everyone. And
Hello,
hello, Alistair.
Niall.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
How's things at your end of town tonight?
Oh, things are absolutely stellar on my end of tonight. I mean, the rolling circus of the SNP seems to be rolling to a stop, finally. I was thinking about what you were saying earlier on. Oh, it's traumatic for Nicola Sturgeon, so traumatic. I think, and some of your viewers said, yes, it's been traumatic for Scotland as a whole. And hello to Stuart McDonald in the chat, and hello to the person in Dunfermline. That's where I hail from as well. The Nicola Sturgeon yesterday was a performance of a lifetime, wasn't it? She came out and made it all about herself. The woman is an out-and-out narcissist. She'll turn anything into being about her and her trauma and her victimhood. It's just incredible scenes, Alistair.
Yes.
But hopefully the signs of the circus rolling to a stop are actually coming to fruition now. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, but I watched that brief interview with her in the corridor of Holyrood, and something that I thought was unusual was in the background, John Swinney's standing there, and I mean, he looked like a panicked wee laddie, basically.
Yeah.
His face was not the usual John Swinney, that you expect. He looked like he didn't want to be there, and he was uncomfortable, and he was worried. You just got that emanating from the screen. And Nicola Sturgeon, I mean, much as I don't like her politics, she is a smooth operator in the way that she can just talk like that, and I mean, she's very good at it. She's had enough blooming practice. There's no question about that.
Sure.
But as you say, she can turn it into poor me, And here am I. I can't talk about this because it's obviously subject to a police inquiry. But I'm sure you understand that. I'm sure you understand it's been a traumatic time for us all. As if it's like, sorry, that's not the way. That's not the way it's meant to be.
The way I put it in a tweet last night was traumatic. Sturgeon's SNP have raped and pillaged Scotland for all it's worth, leaving us broken, bloody and beaten. And it will likely take us decades to recover from her rotten reign. The phony trauma of one woman doesn't compare to the legitimate trauma of an entire population. It's so abysmal the way we've been ran for the last X amount of years that for her to then turn the victim card is just absolutely, I mean, it's predictable, but it is astounding at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was asked as well if she thought that she had any responsibility for leaving the party in such a state to her predecessor, and she didn't seem to have any responsibility about that at all. She managed to say no, nothing to do with me, mate.
Well, I mean, just John Swinney, I could feel the heat coming off his face the longer he was standing behind Nicola Sturgeon. His face just getting redder and redder and redder. And it was similar to the woman who was chaperoning Colin Beattie around before he sort of backtracked on his. I didn't know about the motorhome. Well, yes, I did know about the motorhome. These chaperones, they were like you said, almost guiding them to the lavatory, almost.
Well, that's right. And it's like, who are these people? Because they've obviously are they what they call SPADS, special?
I would imagine, yes.
Advisors.
Very special, yes.
Yeah.
Super special advisors. Basically, they hold the leash almost. And she was sort of point guarding who was dictating the questions. She was saying, right, question. Right, Colin, on you come. One. Like she was saying, let's go for a walk to your dug. It's absolutely outrageous the way we're being ran. But the circus seems to be coming to an end. I think you alluded to this opinion poll that we had come up from Dean Thompson in the last 30 minutes. So Dean Thompson is a analyst. Find it. So his latest poll, YouGov subsample. So this is just from an hour ago, guys. This YouGov subsample puts SNP in third place, ladies and gentlemen, 19%, behind the Scottish Conservatives on 20% and the Scottish Labour on 35%. So this is, and like what he says, it's Armageddon territory for the SNP. And for the life of me, there's still 19% there. There's still 19% people that we need to get that number down as well. That's 19% of people who are uninformed about the SNP and their activities, who are still willing to vote for the SNP. So that number's going to plummet again. I suspect that third place, they'll be lucky to get third place. I think they'll be looking at a distant fifth or sixth. Even if they're, well, depending on what happens with the audit situation in Westminster as well, they're going to lose almost £1 million in short money. And we hear that there's Stephen Flynn's cold calling auditors all over the country with his yellow pages, trying to get an audit in last minute. So it's crisis stations all across the SNP, in Holyrood, in Westminster, everywhere. And I think that they're waking up to the fact that they are effectively what I deem walking dead. They are walking wounded. The MSPs and MPs that are currently sitting are zombie positions because they will not return. Absolutely not.
It's a really good point, that as well, about the extent to which they're going to lose the money that the British taxpayer pays them at Westminster, which is huge amounts of money.
Yes.
Per you mentioned £1 million, but it must be more than that per year. I mean, because does that not include? I mean, who is it that pays their staff, for example? Is that called short money?
This comes from the short money. So this is a thing where if this short money doesn't come through, we're looking at instant layoffs. They won't be able to afford to pay their staff, and I mean that's the only thing that the SNP have ever had going for them, is paying their army of sycophantic, sort of dogmatic political mercenaries. I was talking about these influencers the other day as well. The figures came out on a Freedom of Information request. Last year, I think it was 2.8 million was spent across social media from the Scottish Government on social media influencers, which to me are just basically political mercenaries. And Kelly Given in the clip that you played is 100% one of them. So she, me and her have had run-ins before. I think I called her out on one of our insane tweets, and then she instantly made it about sexism when I didn't mention sex at all. But that's the go-to sort of racist, misogynist, sexist. If you're not going to win the argument, just throw those words in there, and then you've won the argument. Of course.
Well, I don't engage with those types at all, but for those reasons that you can't really win because they're just to call you nasty names. But I saw one of them whose name will remain nameless, who's actually gets interviewed on the BBC and STV and things like that. And she put out a meme a couple of nights ago that showed a guy on the ground getting beaten over the head with stuff, and on the guy's body he was written the word Rangers, I think.
Yeah. I know the exact meme that you're talking about.
You know the meme, and one of the guys who beaten her, it was
said
like,
the Queen's dead.
Queen is dead, and it's this. She gets interviewed on the telly, you know, and she gets treated as a serious commentator. And you and I, as far as I know, we haven't yet appeared on the BBC for our considered opinion, which is considerably more cultivated than hers. Mm-hmm. So how is that? How does a person like that get on the telly and like your granny's switching on at night and listening to this girl's opinion? I mean, I know, that's appalling.
It's appalling, one, because it's a regurgitated opinion. It isn't her opinion if she's paid to say it. This is the thing about me and you, Alistair. We're not paid by anyone to shill a certain message. We just do it because that's the way we're programmed. But the person in question, as if Rangers fans are the only ones affected by the Queen's death, for one. Two, it's almost a call to violence against Rangers fans. But this is the grievance manufacturing thing that happens on Twitter. The girl in question, the lady in question, she gains, if you look at her Twitter following and analytics, she will gain a lot of followers by posting this controversial stuff, backtracking it, and then just regurgitating it every couple of months. So I mean, this is a game they play, and they know they're playing the game. So it is quite sick, because
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed that on Twitter. Twitter rewards the lowest common denominator type of comment. You know, if you just tweet out something if one tweeted out something that's like swearing, full of typos, not properly thought through, and doesn't actually make any sense, it'll get like 300 retweets, be seen by 50,000 people, 4,000 likes. If you tweet out something that's spelt properly, makes a coherent point, really hits home, and you send it out, you'll be lucky if you get 2 retweets. You know, that's been our experience. You know, we've built up a following, but we are kind of, I don't know if we're shadow banned or whatever, but we don't get. I know if I just started swearing and spelling words wrongly, our tweets would probably do better.
Through the roof, Alistair. I think that's the game. It's a game you need to start playing. I've done a similar thing with the Sandyford protest, and where I purposely got wrong Castle Grayskull. So they said, I said that the Sandyford was like Castle Grayskull, the evil place, knowing that Castle Grayskull was the home of the good guys. So then I got all the trolls saying, "Oh, you don't even know your He-Man literature," just to get a wee bit extra sort of comments on Twitter. But this is the types of psychological games that we play on Twitter. But it is really funny, just winding them up.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. But you're on Twitter, twitter.com/Niall Fraser, NIALL Fraser.com, and you're also on Substack. How is your Substack going, by the way?
Substack's going really well. I think I've morphed into what I'm calling audio articles, whereas I'll just dictate what I've read, and it'll you can put the speed up to 1.5 or 1.75 or whatever, just to make it simpler for you. It's easier to listen to someone than read, I like to give people the choice, and then I'll probably branch into video content as well. But the Substack's going really well.
Can you
Get
just,
a lot of responses
for the sake of some viewers who might not be aware what Substack actually is, can you, as somebody who's attempting to take advantage of it, just explain what that actually is?
So Substack is like a subscription type freelance journalism app, or that you can connect into Twitter. I think there is a wee bit of issue with Substack links going to Twitter now with Elon Musk, but before that, effectively you are your own journalist, so you can write whatever you want and just post it, and people can choose to subscribe to it if they want. You can add in audio, you can add in video, you can do what you want. So it's effectively like it's almost like a YouTube page specifically for journalists or content producers that are leaning more on the written side of things than video content.
And when you say subscribe, do people pay? Is it monthly or weekly or what?
So my Substack in particular, I think it's like £4 or £5 a month. Most of my articles I put out are for free. So if you want to jump onto the Substack now, you can read. And I think there's only one article I've got that is paid, and it's because it's a series I'm working on called Escape the Matrix. So that's the only one that is off limits for people to know. But everything else is free, effectively. So if you want to jump on and listen to what my ravings, please do.
Well, I like the sound of that, Escape the Matrix. The Matrix being the system that dominates our lives. How do you define the Matrix?
Well, the way I define the Matrix is the sort of the narrative control that we are currently sitting under. So the SNP have got their narrative control, and what I'm getting at is that we've been ran on a succession of scams, and the first one being the gender scam, and the most important one being the gender scam as well, because everyone can identify what a man and a woman is, but and to a certain extent, they're intrinsically repelled from this gender ideology. So this is why it's the most important area of the scam. But if we're attempting to escape the matrix, which is the system of digital control and sort of narrative control, we need to understand what's going down. It's like if you ever seen the Truman Show, Alistair?
Oh yeah, that's some film. I was advised by a colleague to watch it, and it's like what we were subject to for those 2 years just recently.
So the Truman Show, for me, it's like it's one of the best films ever made, and how does Truman escape the Matrix? So Truman escapes the Matrix by understanding that he's in it. So this is a problem. We need to come to understand that we're in this sort of paradigm before we can escape it. This is what I'm getting to in my 3-part series. It's a very complicated sort of thing to escape the Matrix, but
well, it's so important because if you don't, then it's can be bad for your mental and physical health.
Yes,
especially when you look at some of the things that are going on. There's a tendency to which one can feel powerless and without agency to do things about, and that's certainly come out very strongly for some of us in the last 2 or 3 years. And when you see things that other people don't necessarily see, it can be a bit of a burden as well. And you need to figure out how can well, you say escape it, or be in the world but not of the world, as the biblical injunction has it. So I suppose it's something that many have suffered with from the dawn of time, since creation, but it's certainly something that seems to be becoming ever more important in the last few years. It's just, I don't know if something's changing in the atmosphere or what, but you just feel, crikey, the time, and the more and more people are like this now as well. More and more people are coming to these sorts of realizations that something's not quite right here. So it's great to hear that you're putting your brain to that. That would be a considerable piece of work when you've got it done.
It's I keep going back to the film, but it's like you get on all these clues. In the Truman Show, you've got obviously it's just one man, and then the whole set, the whole studio is actors. But then he starts to see wee things and pick up wee things. And I think for us, the wee things that we're picking up is this gender bill, is the failing justice system, the blatant lies we're being told about biological sex. This is our version of the actors in the show. These wee things that we're saying, this doesn't quite go with the reality that we're living in. In fact, it's totally opposite to that reality we're living in. So it's understanding these wee intricacies and then sort of pinning them all together, and then understanding the wider picture in order to escape the matrix, like Truman does in the boat.
Yeah. Well, just talking about the gender thing there as well, and I watched Tucker Carlson, who gave a speech a few days ago, and he mentioned that, and he said that's not something that's any more part of just like normal political discussion. It's beyond that. It's something that's, it's not, this is just a left-wing thing or a right-wing thing or whatever, and we can debate whether this is right or wrong. This is like just, you're basically trying to change humanity. That's taking it to a whole nother level. And what happened within 24 hours, he lost his job as America's biggest news presenter on Fox News, which is a supposedly right-wing channel. They got rid of him.
So I think they shed almost 900 million in market cap straight away as soon as the announcement was that Tucker's left. I think he and then the rumours started swirling that it's a Tucker, a Trump Carlson presidential ticket, and I was like, oh, that's pretty exciting. So I mean, Tucker's bang on. This gender thing does transcend all politics, and it's true. It's like a social engineering type activity. It's got nothing to do with politics, really. It's about changing human nature. And this is a thing where we just must resist it at all cost.
Yeah, and as you say, it's got nothing to do with political ideologies. And indeed, talking about the American presidential election, on the Democrat side, we've had the announcement this week, which I think is very exciting, about Robert Kennedy Jr. standing as a Democratic candidate.
Yes.
And I mean, some of the stuff that he's saying,
his speech
is
was
incredible,
fantastic.
Incredible stuff. And he's talking, of course, about the trying to always figure out a way of saying this word without the YouTube algorithms picking it up, but the sort of things that you put into your arm with the end of a needle. And he's pointing out the dangers of that to an extent which is extremely bold. And I wish him safety for his message. But we can expect that the mainstream media, all the mainstream media, will try to, including Britain, including the so-called right-wing newspapers, will try to promote him as some kind of cook, you know, KOOK, some kind of nutter, but in fact he's bang on.
He said in his speech that he was going to scatter the CIA to the winds. And I think if you look back in history, I think his relative was shot for that. You know,
well, arguably both his relatives. Yeah, yeah. But so he's very brave as well for doing that. He's extremely brave. So I wish him the best in his efforts as well. Although what we'll probably get, of course, is Joe Biden winning again, but this time with like a 300 million majority.
Yes, that's what I think. There'll be more votes cast than the population of the USA.
Yeah,
and it'll win by a landslide. It's similar to the desolation that's going across America. Is very similar to the desolation that Scotland's facing, whereas we've got Nicola Sturgeon being the sort of Joe Biden puppet figure, just leading us on this merry circus run all the way through Scotland, and no end in sight. But the people are waking up, as evidenced by this poll by Dean Thompson. Imagine the polls saying that the SNP are in third place behind the Scottish Tories, guys. This is incredible news, and I think I might have a wee dram the night after that. So thanks for Dean Thompson for bringing that up.
Oh yeah, it'd be absolutely tremendous to see. And having said that, time changes everything, and things can go south for us all very fast. In fact, was it who was it I saw today? Was it? Yeah, it was actually in this article that I quoted earlier from David Forst, and he said that probably Scottish nationalism is no lower than 30%. Yeah, certainly a hardcore 25%, I would say. But he says that is enough to keep nationalist parties significant players in Scottish politics, indeed the leading players if their vote does not split between SNP and Alba. And if Yusuf becomes a tartan Liz Truss and Kate Forbes returns, the mood could change quickly once again. And that's the thing with politics, is the mood can change quickly.
Yes, the wind's ever changing us. There's such a fast pace up here in Scotland. It's every single minute of every day. It seems there's a new twist, a new plot twist in the ever-going saga of Scottish politics. Yesterday, Colin Beattie backtracking it is almost before it leaves his lips, and all the journalists saying, "You can keep up, guys."
Yes, exactly. Well, look, there's going to be so much, as you say, to talk about, and so we'll want to get you back on again whenever you're available to talk about it, because that's at least one good thing about politics, is one's never lost for anything to talk about. But let's give you a mention at niallfraser8.substack.com and twitter.com/Niall Fraser. That's NIALLFRASER 8. Twitter.com Niall Fraser 8. good stuff that you put on there. We follow each other, and if anybody else is out there on Twitter, please give Niall a follow, and you won't be disappointed. Niall, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight, and for your wit and wisdom.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks for having me, Alistair. And a great show as always. And again, I must commend you on your quality of merchandise. This wee Coronation badge is absolutely sublime. So hopefully I'll pick one up at this one of your stalls in the future. But
yes,
it's absolutely gorgeous merchandise. So I can't commend you enough.
Great stuff. Well, thanks. And we'll be having a street stall in Glasgow this Saturday, folks. And if you want to join us, do send us an email and we'll tell you where. Okay, now we'll say good night. All the best to you.
Good night, folks.
Cheers. Fantastic. That's Niall Fraser. Thank you, Niall, for your comments. Now, Debbie is agreed that the badge is fantastic, and it was Debbie who won it last week. Now, talking about things coming up, we have got, of course, the Coronation, which will be on Saturday, the 6th of May, and we are aware of grassroots organisation among people who support the monarchy, who are basically all going to be gathering in George Square after the Coronation from 5 p.m. on Saturday the 6th of May. Celebration after the Coronation, George Square, Glasgow, from 5 p.m. Okay, and we are going to be there. Okay, a Force for Good is going to be there, so we'll be there. All our colleagues who can, please do come along, and we are going to create some good visuals and some good optics as well for the cameras, one of which, wait till you see this, and we need people to help us with this, right? We have got 14 posters. Each one of them spells out a letter. G O D S A V E. Can you guess what the other two words spell out? T H E K I N G, and it also reads the same on the back. So we're going to need 14 people in George Square sometime around 5 o'clock on Saturday the 6th of May. So if you're in town, come along and join us. It's going to be good. We're going to be at that celebration after the Coronation. More on that next week. Next week, the 3rd of May, we're going to have a special Coronation themed programme where we'll be speaking about the Coronation for virtually the whole programme. So that will be next week. Anything else that I need to mention to you? Of course, we have a winner. Now, I asked the question on this day, 99 years ago, on the 26th of April 1924, the Chatham War Memorial was built. It was one of 3 exact same war memorials. Can you name one town in which the others were located? And the answer was, of course, Plymouth and or Portsmouth. And it's Stuart MacDonald who is the winner. Fantastic, Stuart. Well done. Glad you got that. This will be winging its way to you, along with an additional copy of the Union of Crowns. If you already have one, send this one to your MP or donate it to your local library or give it to a friend or do whatever. But that will be coming your way tomorrow. Congratulations, Stuart. Debbie says, congrats. Alan says, well done. Stuart McDonald says, cool. Thanks. Fantastic, Stuart. Christopher says, enjoy, Stuart. God bless the King. Absolutely. He needs it these days. He absolutely does. Folks, sorry I wasn't able to get to all your points of view. Next week we'll be back on the 3rd of May. If you'd like to join us at the weekend, send us an email. We'll get back to you about our street stall. If you'd like to join us 2 Saturdays from now at the Coronation celebration in George Square, please tell us and we'll give you the information that you need to know, or just come along anyway. Great stuff. It's going to be an exciting 2 weeks moving forward, that's for sure. So folks, it just remains for me to say, God bless the United Kingdom and God save the King. See you next week.